Hello, I'm here today to show you one of the much loved treasures of the Northwest, the Marsh Mill windmill here in Thornton. The Marsh Mill is a Grade 2 star listed heritage building, as designated by Historic England. Built in 1794 at the behest of bold Fleetwood Hesketh, who had the local marsh drain creating more agricultural land for producing crops, the very reason he needed his mill. Now, the main crops produced in this area were oat, barley and wheat, but very often they came in damp from the fields. So in that case, they had to be brought inside and dried off in this building here, the drying kiln. We're going to take a look inside shortly, but before we do, I want to draw your attention to this millstone. It's a very special millstone indeed. This is a French Burr. It is made from a very hard stone called metaquartzite, which came from a quarry in the Paris Basin. The pieces you see here arrived on sailing ships that docked in Liverpool, where they were assembled into this millstone. This stone has travelled a great distance for a reason. It's all down to the quality and texture of the fine white flour that this very special stone creates. If you want the best quality flour, then a French Burr is what you need. Now we're on the inside, you can see this brick funnel. Now there's nothing behind this wall, it's completely empty. And that's to allow the heat generated from a peat fire to rise up and dry the crop on the floor above. Now we're on the floor above and you can see that brick funnel, and the fire would have been roaring directly beneath this metal deflector plate. The heat would rise up and dry the crop that was spread over a tile floor. The tiles are thick and hardy so they could hold the heat, and they have tiny holes through them to let the heat pass through and circulate. The miller would turn the crop until it was dry. When that was done, it would go into chutes to be hoisted to the top of the mill, where it begins its journey to become flour. Up here is the cap of Marsh Mill at the very top of this 70-foot tall structure. The cap turns as the wind shifts, and inside the cap are these massive wheels which takes the power from the sails and transmits it downwards, and that's what makes everything work. So this wooden shaft is taking the power from those massive wheels above us in the cap, and then that power is transferred down to the third floor where the machinery will grind the corn. Now this is interesting. Marsh Mill is protected by 18th century apotropaic marks, known as witch marks. They're at the entrances and on important parts of the machinery to ward off evil. Now we've come down another floor to find out where all that power was going from the big wooden shaft upstairs. Well, it's actually going into this giant spur wheel with giant teeth that transfer power to the other smaller wheels, which in turn rotate the millstones. The miller was a busy man, but not always. Here someone has taken the time to carve some graffiti in the mill wall. You can see the millstone, and a stone dresser's bill was used to make the pattern on the stone. You can also see the date 1803 and someone's initials, along with this little bird, probably a pigeon, which were a nuisance in the cap of the mill and still are today. This doorway was the miller's access point to the reefing stage. It allowed him to check the wind speed and direction. It also enabled him to check the slats on the sails to allow for the wind. These millstones are the heaviest pieces of equipment in the mill. Each one, when new, weighed in excess of a ton. So the power would come from the great spur wheel as mentioned before, and the grain would fall down into these hoppers, into the shoe, and then be fed into the centre of the stones where the grinding would take place. And the resulting flour was swept away to go downstairs to be processed. Now we've come down a floor to catch up with the flour after it comes out of the millstones. It comes down these chutes here and into the great sifter, where it is sifted before it goes downstairs to be sacked and weighed. Anything that doesn't make the grade gets a second chance by going back up this elevator to repeat the process. But on this floor, it wasn't just sifting that took place. The miller used this floor as the nerve centre of the mill, because not only could he test the quality of the flour, he could also go outside on the reefing stage to check the sails. He could also control the distance between the millstones from this floor. One of the biggest problems the miller had was keeping the giant millstones the right distance apart. This job was called tentering. Originally it was done by turning a giant screw, a difficult and strenuous job. Eventually a better method was invented, the more efficient centrifugal governor. As the mill gathered speed, two iron globes swung apart to make sure the gap was automatically kept correct. This was a device invented and pioneered for windmills and eventually used in steam engine technology by James Watts. So now we have an intriguing question. This blue piece of equipment is a bit of a mystery. We're not quite sure what it was used for or why indeed it's blue. Could it be a potato sorter, or could it have been used to cut the wheat from its stalks? Now we've come down another floor and the flour is coming to the end of its process, coming down these chutes here to be sacked and weighed before continuing on to its final destination. Marsh Mill really is a fascinating and interesting part of Thornton and Wyre's history, and without doubt should be treasured and appreciated. For more information on the mill, Thornton and Wyre, please visit our website at discoverwyre.co.uk.